everyone, and welcome to another edition of Above the Fold. I am Austin Brissett, here with one of our Vista reporters, Katie Stanley, doing a brilliant job, as all of our Vista reporters do. Katie had a story this week that talked about UCOSA violating Oklahoma Open Meetings Act laws. And for those of you that don't know, UCOSA is the University of Central Oklahoma Student Association. There are several aspects to this story, and we're going to break it down so it's kind of easier to follow. But first, Katie, go ahead and give us an overall view of what you found and people you talked to and things like that.
Sure. So UCOSA has made violations before with OMA and ORA, and so they were making some changes to comply with OMA, ORA, their own bylaws, and UCO's Student Code of Conduct. However, there are violations still continuing, and there are quite a few of them. They weren't recording their minutes correctly, they weren't counting the votes correctly, and then there was a meeting that was canceled without proper notice, and an advisor was not present at a meeting as well.
Okay, so that was pretty much the three aspects that Katie just said, and let's go ahead and start with the not recording minutes and votes correctly, because that has to do with the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. Go ahead and tell us what you found out there. So
in the Oklahoma Meetings Act and Oklahoma Records Act, it requires public bodies like UCOSA to provide these documents to, in this case, students, so that way they can see what's happening in these meetings. Now, with the minutes, they're supposed to record every single thing that happens there.
Sure.
They don't do that. They give a very brief, short sentence of what happened in each thing, but they don't go into detail about what was talked about. So if a student who wanted to go to a UCOSA meeting couldn't attend, they couldn't go back and look at those minutes and see what really happened.
Right.
And then same with the votes. I had talked to UCOSA Senator Colton Kidd, and he had said that a lot of the senators sometimes abstain. The way they do it now, they'll say it either passed, failed, or was tabled. But the way they're supposed to do it is a roll call vote, so that way students could see how each senator voted. Then you could see if they abstained or if they voted one way or the other.
Okay. And we'll go ahead and jump right into the second part here then. You said that there was a meeting where there was no advisor present. Why is that a rule to where the advisor has to be present, and why wasn't he there? Because it does say that if a certain person can't be present, then you can find a replacement for him, but apparently not. I don't know. What'd you find there?
Absolutely. So it was on February 27th. The email was sent out, and it was canceling. I'm sorry. You're talking about the
advisor. Yeah, the advisor.
Sorry,
You're good.
I got it mixed up. That is Cole Stanley. He is also the vice president for student affairs, and so he's their only advisor. So that's part of the problem, is when he can't make it to a meeting, they have to cancel it, but they have to follow OMA and cancel it in time. He was unable to make it because his child was sick, and they had a graduate assistant who could take that place, but she was unable to make it because she had to take care of her child too. So they could have more advisors, and that could probably fix that problem, but right now, as it is, they just have Cole Stanley and a graduate assistant. Okay,
and then the third aspect, the canceled meeting, why is it that they have to have proper advance notice? Is that, again, because if students want to go, or what's that have to do with?
So now that one is for OMA.
Okay.
The other one is from the UCO Student Conduct. That's where an advisor is required to be there.
Sure.
But the other one is from OMA. You have to have 10 days notice. And now in this instance, that would be for students. If they wanted to attend a meeting, they wouldn't be able to go if there's not proper notice. And that proper notice means that they also have to have a physical copy outside of their office, because a problem that they were running into is they weren't posting the meeting time outside their office. It was just online. But if a glitch happens online, then that's a problem. So there has to be that physical copy too. So it wasn't done correctly. There was that meeting on March 5th, and it was canceled on February 27th, so it didn't give it that proper time.
Okay. And something that I think is very, very fascinating that we were discussing before we did this, and it's even in your story as well, UCOSA doesn't really count the student fees as being public fees, so they don't feel that they are a public entity. They said that they might change, or they wanted to, rather, change the bylaws so that could change some things. What did you find out there?
Yeah, so it's just something they've talked about.
Sure.
There's nothing been written up or anything
Absolutely.
like that. But even if they were to change the bylaws, because right now in their own bylaws it says they must comply with OMA and ORA, so they have to follow it no matter what right now. But in OMA it says that any government public body that receives public funds, which is UCOSA, has to follow OMA and ORA. Those student activity fees that we pay every semester with our tuition, that's those public fees. So even if they wrote it out of their bylaws,
Sure.
they'd still have to follow.
Okay. All right, Katie. Brilliant story. Very, very in-depth. A lot of information. Really, really great
Thank
for
you.
the students to be able to read and see. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Above the Fold. I am Austin Brissett, again, here with Katie Stanley. We'll see you next time.